Okay. All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Chiropractic First Podcast. I'm Dr. Jordan, and this week we're going to be talking with Dr. Bushman about chiropractic and other modalities that can help with chiropractic care. So, welcome, Dr. Bushman. Let's get to know you just a little bit, kind of maybe where you're from and what got you into chiropractic, and then we'll talk about some of your specific offices. So, Dr. Bushman, where are you from?
So I'm from kind of all over the place. I grew up in California, Japan, Chicago area, Missouri. We kind of traveled a lot growing up, and not necessarily traveled, but we moved around a lot. And so was able to see a wide, diverse group, diverse cultures and things like that all over the place. We weren't military. That's what the second question I always get. My dad was in international business, and he just liked to travel, liked to switch companies, and move his way up the corporate chain that way.
So with that, having a large world view from a young age, what's your background? How did you get into chiropractic? How did that kind of play into that?
I've always had a healthy skepticism of pharmaceuticals and things like that, and so when I was leaning towards a healthcare field, because I always wanted to help people, chiropractic just seemed to be the best fit for me. A natural way to allow the body to heal properly without taking drugs or those sorts of things. So for me, it was a natural fit from where I stood philosophically.
So where did you go to school? How long have you been a chiropractor?
So I've been a chiropractor for 11 years now. I went to school at Logan University in St. Louis.
And then
I've practiced my entire career here in Montana, between the Heights and Laurel, Columbus, and Roundup.
So where are you at now? Which offices?
So I'm in the Heights and Roundup now.
And from traveling all over the world, going to school in Missouri, how did you end up in Billings?
My wife didn't want to move to Alaska, and Montana was her family is here, and so it was a natural fit there. But she asked me when I mentioned Alaska. She said, "Well, how about Montana?" I said, "Okay, yeah, that'll do." So we actually shadowed offices in Reno, Nevada, and Boise, Idaho. Those were our other two top choices. And it just seemed like the environment in Montana was much more healthy, friendly, and it seemed that every office I went into was busy, and it seemed very chiropractic friendly in Montana, so that's why we ultimately ended up choosing here.
Good. Now, in 11 years in chiropractic, all here in basically the Billings area, is there anything in your mind that sticks out in your experience that like a patient, a case, or a condition that you've seen more frequently, or maybe that some people wouldn't realize chiropractic can have a positive effect on?
Well, I actually do a lot of work with infants, and so that's the one that shocks people the most, is that they don't realize that infants need care too, and that colic and ear infections and things like that can be helped with chiropractic care.
So obviously a chiropractic adjustment, there are different techniques you can use, from manual adjustment with your hands to instrument type adjusting. How do you vary your technique from an adult, big, bulky, 250-pound man to a 6-week-old infant? How does that change your
those adjustments are very different. Very different. Obviously, we're not cracking an infant's neck. It's the funny thing is most infants, they've been upside down for 4 or 5 months in the womb, and so that's one way that you would adjust them. You actually hang them upside down and just do a slight distraction, and let gravity do a lot of the straightening and the adjustment. You just kind of guide it along the way, so you don't have to manipulate them like you do in adults. And then about half of my patients, especially in the Heights, they do just instrument adjusting, which is a completely different style of adjustment as well.
So what does that look like? What is the difference between like a manual adjustment and an instrument adjustment?
So you're not going to get any pops or cracks with an instrument adjustment. Most people have heard of the clicky thing, the activator. I learned a technique called torque release technique, which is a very specific, uses a very specific instrument, and also has a specific protocol that, checking wavelengths and adjusting certain areas and making sure that you're evening out the nervous system in the body. So it's an interesting technique. And the doctor that I took over for in the Heights, he used that technique, and so if I was going to take over his office, I needed to know how to do it. So.
And I guess philosophically, what would the difference between instrument only adjusting be and manual? Why is there a difference if they're really getting the same effect?
So for me, it's not so much a philosophical thing, whether, because I do half of my adjustments are manual. A lot of it has to do with the way somebody responds to the adjustments. And it's nice to have more tools in the bag. So if somebody responds poorly to a manual adjustment, if they get sore or whatnot, we can try an instrument adjustment on them and see if they will respond to that. So it's more of a patient preference. For me, philosophically, they both work. They're both effective techniques. They both work. It's just some work for some people more better than other people. So and we're up in Roundup. I'm the only doctor up there. I've got to have a variety of techniques that I can use on.
And with that, so you talked about having more tools in your tool belt, right? And I know there's some modalities that you use in your different offices than maybe some of our other clinics don't. So what techniques, what services, what modalities do you have in your offices?
So I've become really fond of dry needling. Dry needling it's a form, it's not acupuncture, but it uses acupuncture needles, and it releases muscle tension for headaches and trigger points in the back, low back, sciatica type pain, arthritis. It helps with a myriad of different symptoms. And a lot of people will come in, they'll get adjusted, and within a day or two they're back to where they were. And that muscle memory is pulling their spine back, not necessarily out of place, but it's causing things to tighten up again, and the symptoms come back. And what the dry needling can do is break that muscle pattern and get them better, make it so that the adjustments are actually more effective.
Well, and I was going to say, I actually just sent a patient up to you recently for TMJ as well.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Some of those other techniques, and those are more soft tissue related or muscle related. Well, I can't say that. Occasionally can be more soft tissue related than bone or joint related, so that dry needling can definitely have an effect. So what exactly is going on when you are going through a dry needling session? Why is it effective with the soft tissue? How does that kind of setup look?
So it's the actual puncturing of the muscle with the needle that is the treatment. It works on a chemical level to allow that muscle to relax. The chemicals inside the muscle are released. It releases some toxins and some other things that allow that muscle to relax and without getting too technical. It has to do with the calcium cascade and magnesium.
And one thing that I do love, I've done dry needling in your office as well for my shoulder, and it's fantastic, is you hook the E-stem or electrostimulation up to it as well. Why would you do that?
Well, just to broaden the area, because the needle is a very specific point, and you put the needle in, you can twist it, which wraps connective tissue around it, and that broadens the treatment area a little bit more. But when you hook the electricity up, you're actually going to treat the whole muscle. And it's a little more intense than like a normal TENS unit, because that's on the surface of the skin, whereas this is, going directly down into the muscle. So you're getting a very intense electric stimulation into that muscle, which then breaks that pattern and causes it to relax.
Good. Well, obviously 11 years experience in chiropractic, been in the area for quite some time. Definitely know what you're doing. What other, I know that you have laser in your office as well, cold laser therapy. You want to talk a little bit about cold laser?
Yeah, cold laser, it works kind of like photosynthesis on plants. Like everybody knows about photosynthesis in plants. They don't realize that different wavelengths of light can also produce energy or ATP production in the cellular level of our own bodies. And so what it does is it uses those different wavelengths of light to help speed up healing. It essentially just creates ATP production in the cells, and it improves healing time. That's what it does.
So with that, those modalities obviously aren't chiropractic, but they aid in increasing the healing process and easing some of the symptoms as people are going through the healing process. Is that right?
Correct. And I wouldn't replace any of these these are supplemental modalities that go with chiropractic. The adjustment is paramount to all those, because without the adjustment, the dry needling would probably be ineffective, and vice versa. The adjustment isn't as effective with the dry needling, so they're complementary modalities.
So if you were talking with somebody who maybe is experiencing chronic pain, let's just say in the shoulder neck area, they're starting to get numbness down their arm, why would you suggest chiropractic to them, or why would I consider chiropractic care if I'm that individual?
You could always go the surgical route, but once you get cut, you're done.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no going back. The nice thing about it is it does allow for a natural, most likely if it's radiating down the arm, like the example you gave, it's a nervous system issue, and we affect the nervous system and calm down those areas. It may not be the fastest way to get better, but it's going to be the most effective, and it's going to give you the best long-term results for pain relief.
And you're one of the owners of Chiropractic First, and what I love about the name Chiropractic First is it's old chiropractic history, right? I can't remember the author or the doc who initially said it, but they said when you're looking for healing, you should consider chiropractic first, medicine second, and surgery last.
Yep.
How does your philosophy line up with that?
Well, like I said before, that's basically, before I even got into chiropractic, that's kind of where I was standing. It just makes sense that you're going to want to try to exhaust all efforts before you go to surgery.
More invasive route?
Yeah, because like I said, once you're cut, there's no going back. And if you can get better naturally, it's going to be you're going to have more long-term benefit to it. For instance, most surgeries, if you get a knee replaced, they say those knee replacements are going to last 10 or 15 years, and then you're going to have to go in and have it surgically repaired again. So, but if you're able to fix that knee naturally, it may last 30, 40 years before you have to get it cut on. So there's obviously the body's designed to heal on its own. And so if you can facilitate that through chiropractic care, it's always the best way to do it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Dr. Bushman, for joining this episode of the podcast, for helping us understand some of the modalities in chiropractic. Again, you're in the Heights office, in the Roundup office, and just want to invite anybody if they have any questions about some of those modalities, reach out to those offices. And remember, when you think wellness or think health, think chiropractic first.